What if the greatest war in the Middle East is covering up the biggest scandal in contemporary times? What if international tensions, missiles, and airstrikes are concealing a narrative that powerful people don't want you to see? In early 2026, millions of documents related to one of the most infamous people in history, Jeffrey Epstein, were eventually made public. Names, connections, powerful networks. And suddenly, a massive war erupts between Iran and Israel. Coincidence? Or just the right distraction? Today we ask a dangerous question. Is the Iran-Israel war a geopolitical necessity or a political smokescreen for the Epstein files? Stick with me, because the answers are far more complicated than you think. Before we begin, understand this. This video does not promote conspiracy theories. Instead, we will examine what actually happened, who the key players are, why the timing is raising questions, and whether the theory holds any real evidence. By the end, you'll decide for yourself what the bigger picture actually is. In January 2026, an enormous archive known as the Epstein files released U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ. These files include emails, court documents, flight logs, personal contacts, videos, and digital evidence. In total, over 3 million documents were made available to public. The crimes and social network of financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was found guilty of child sex trafficking, are the subject of these files. The archive contains names of politicians, billionaires, royalty, and celebrities who appeared in Epstein's contacts or communications. But here's the important point. Being mentioned in the files does not necessarily mean involvement in crimes. Still, the release triggered global shock and intense investigation. And people started asking questions. Who knew about Epstein's network? Why was he connected to so many powerful people? And why did he die in prison before his trial? Then an unanticipated event occurred, the Iran-Israel war, and the global conversation suddenly shifted. On February 28, 2026, the United States of America and Israel launched major strikes on Iran, triggering what analysts now call the 2026 Iran War. This conflict quickly escalated into a regional crisis, with missiles being fired, drones being used, and energy disruptions. The Strait of Hormuz, which is an important choke point and sea route for global oil transportation, became unstable. Shipping stopped. Oil prices increased. This strait is 167 kilometers long and 33 to 39 kilometers wide, and it is between Iran to the north and Oman to the south, which means Iran is in a great place to manage the route. About 20 million barrels a day of the world's oil, or 20% of total, passes through this small gap connecting the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman. Because Iran is in charge of the northern coastline and the islands nearby, it has significant influence over shipping lines, and any war with Iran can quickly cause problems with tanker traffic and make global oil prices go higher. Since 1/5 of the world's oil goes through this narrow route, problems with shipping and tankers not moving quickly pushed global oil prices upward. Several vessels delayed or changed their routes due to security problems, prompting increased patrols by the United States Navy and allied forces. While analysts warned, if this problem lasted for a long time, it could cause a big energy crisis all over the world. And the world's media shifted its focus entirely to 2026 Iran war. The conflict intensified further when Israeli forces reportedly killed senior Iranian officials during targeted strikes. Thousands of casualties followed. Missiles struck military bases and cities. Global tensions skyrocketed. And suddenly, no one was talking about the Epstein files anymore. This is where the controversial question begins. Some analysts and politicians have suggested the timing might not be random. Republican U.S. Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky even stated, "Bombing a country on the other side of the globe won't make the Epstein files go away." Researchers also noticed something unusual. Internet searches for the Epstein files dropped sharply once the war began. This led to a provocative theory spreading online. Was the war diverting attention from the scandal? Some commentators describe this as a classic political strategy known as diversionary war. The idea is simple. When a government faces a trouble at home, domestic pressure or scandal, foreign conflict can shift the public's attention. However, lots of experts really disagree with this way of thinking. They do not see it that way. Some experts say that instead of political distraction, long-running geopolitical conflicts drive the war. Some experts believe this conflict is more about continuing geopolitical tensions, state rivalries, than about diverting people from domestic concerns and issues at home. And that raises a deeper question. What about the Trump factor in the Epstein files? Is this a really coincidence or something to think about for everyone? To get to the bottom of this controversy, we have to look at Donald Trump's involvement in order to understand this issue. When thousands of Epstein-related documents were reviewed and released, Trump's name appeared in documents and communications. His name shows up in over 38,000 places in the released files. U.S. officials said these references included unverified hearsay and allegations, not confirmed wrongdoing. Some records also claim Trump flew on Epstein's jet multiple times from 1993 to 1996. However, Trump denies any involvement in Epstein's crimes. No court has found him guilty of crimes related to Epstein. Important thing in this scenario is that Trump himself signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which authorized the release of many Epstein documents. But documents also included unverified allegations and references involving Trump, according to FBI summaries. Crucial point is that these allegations were not confirmed or proven, yet the media attention was massive. On February 3, 2026, there was a heated argument during an Oval Office press conference that took a dramatic turn. CNN's main White House correspondent Caitlin Collins pressed Trump on justice for Epstein's victims and the Epstein files. But the dialogue rapidly grew confrontational. Trump snapped back at the reporter, calling her the worst reporter. He even mocked her demeanor, saying he had never seen you smile. During the same exchange, Trump also said the country should move on from the Epstein files, arguing that the issue had been overly politicized. The moment immediately went viral. Clips flooded social media. News outlets debated whether Trump was avoiding the question, attacking the press, or simply pushing back against hostile journalism. While Trump supporters charged the press of political slant, CNN backed Collins and praised her inquiry. The confrontation became one of the most discussed political events of the month. At the same time, pressure is building inside Washington. A U.S. House Oversight Committee has asked the Attorney General to provide information through a subpoena regarding how the government handled the Epstein files. Lawmakers from both parties are asking questions such as why certain names were redacted, whether key evidence is being withheld, and whether powerful figures were protected. Some politicians even accuse that the administration might be hiding something, while others believe the accusations are a way to win points in politics. Either way, the Epstein investigation is far from over. But something strange happened just as the controversy intensified. The world's attention suddenly shifted. Within days, global headlines became dominated about the war between Iran and Israel, and people stopped talking about the Epstein story. Analysts noticed that online searches and public interest in the Epstein files dropped sharply once the war crisis began. This has sparked a controversial debate among political commentators. Some argue the timing is a pure coincidence. Others believe major geopolitical events can unintentionally or intentionally distract public attention from domestic scandals. But right now, there is no confirmed evidence that the war was launched to hide the Epstein story. Still, the debate continues. So here's the real question. Why are the Epstein files still shaking the political world? Because they touch something deeper: power, influence, and accountability among the global elite. Every new document raises more questions than answers, but that was just the beginning. At the same time, Trump's administration supported Israel's military campaign against Iran. Critics argue the war narrative overshadowed the scandal. Supporters say that claim is politically motivated. So which explanation is closer to reality? To answer that, we must examine another key figure. Over the years, The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has voiced the opinion that Iran is the biggest security threat to Israel. He and the other Israeli leaders have frequently issued warnings to the effect that someday, Iran and its intentions to acquire nuclear energy and its increased power in the Middle East may pose a threat to the survival of Israel. The two parties, Israel and Iran, have engaged in covert means of war instead of open, large-scale war. Cyber attacks, intelligence gathering, proxy wars against each other through the use of allied factions, and even targeted killings. Actually, Israel and Iran have been involved in a shadow war over the decades. An example is that in 2025, Iran alleged that it had stolen millions of Israeli secret intelligence files in a computer attack. Israel has, as well, made provocative attacks within Iran, excluding an attack on the Evin prison in Tehran that killed dozens of people, attracting global condemnation. Therefore, the tensions which we observe today did not begin in 2026. They have been constructed over the years. This is where things start to raise serious questions. While reports on the growing tension between Iran and Israel inundated the global headlines around the same time, another narrative was subtly but steadily generating interest: the ongoing aftermath of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Epstein had long been linked to strong political and commercial leaders, including the US President, Donald Trump. Early in 2026, fresh arguments and conversations about papers linked to Jeffrey Epstein started to spread. But almost suddenly, media coverage shifted. Global attention turned toward rising military tensions in the Middle East. Within weeks, the confrontation between Iran and Israel dominated international news cycles. This timing has led some analysts and commentators to raise a controversial question. Was the escalation between Iran and Israel simply the next phase of a long-standing geopolitical rivalry? Or did the timing unintentionally divert global attention away from the Epstein controversy? On one side, there is the reality of a genuine strategic conflict. Iran and Israel have been locked in a covert war for decades, including cyber warfare, intelligence activities, and proxy conflicts all throughout the Middle East. On the other hand, major world events define the focus of the globe and what disappears into the background. So the real question remains intact. Are we witnessing the natural escalation of a decades-old conflict, or a moment where global events and media narratives collided, shifting attention away from one of the most controversial scandals involving elite power networks? And that question is exactly what we're going to explore next. Analysts caution that the two parties are using the Epstein story to score propaganda. It has been discovered that there are online campaigns that rely on the Epstein story to affect the opinion of the people on the war. There are other warnings that conspiracy theories can mislead actual geopolitical analysis. In fact, the information battlefield today includes social media campaigns, AI-generated content, political messaging, meaning the truth can become extremely difficult to separate from speculation. So let's ask the question again. Is the Iran-Israel war a cover-up for the Epstein files? At this moment, there is no verified evidence proving that claim, but the timing, media attention shift, and political context have sparked intense debate. And in a world where power, politics, intelligence agencies, and media narratives intersect, questions will always remain.
It's time for Factssay Confidence Score.
History teaches us something important. Sometimes wars happen because of real geopolitical conflict. Sometimes scandals reshape politics. And sometimes, both stories unfold at the same time. The real challenge is figuring out which narrative is driving the world's headlines. What do you think? Is the Epstein scandal being buried by global conflict? Or is this just another internet conspiracy? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dive investigations like this, subscribe, because the truth is often hidden between the headlines.